All right. Thanks everyone for being here. We're going to go ahead and dive into it. All right. So follow up SkySlope integration. We've been working hard on this for since June, I guess. So 3, 4 months now. It's definitely rounding into form. So thank you from Interface for being here. So what you're going to learn on this call. So how interface embedded web forms work within follow-up boss. How interface forms can automate everything that need to happen within Follow Boss, and then how interface forms will integrate with SkySlope, and additional details about the SkySlope integration. So before we start, we're doing this webinar because the request we got most was building a SkySlope integration. So here it is. We've met with SkySlope. They provide us with a sandbox development account. So now everything's up and running. And so we're going to go ahead and show you what we built so far. This will be maybe 30, 45 minutes. I'll stick around after the presentation for as long as necessary to answer questions. Type in questions as you think of them. Get out a notepad, start writing things down. And this is being recorded. We'll send out the recording probably early next week. So, my quick background. So, started my career as a real estate agent back in 2007. Best time ever to get into real estate. So after the market collapsed, I actually played online poker professionally while living on the beach in Mexico. Online poker is actually a very similar skill set to data science and analytics. So after I was done, you know, poker's a super stressful career. So when I got done with that, I transitioned to a career in data science and analytics. Ended up getting hired in 2017 as a database manager for the top selling real estate team in San Diego. Quickly was promoted to chief data officer. We went from about 300 transactions to almost 500 in the couple years that I was there. And then I started Interface as an automation and integration solution for Follow Up Boss. So what Interface does, so we're an automation as a service platform. We enhance capabilities of Follow Up Boss and Open to Close and now SkySlope. Our focus is keeping agents in Follow Up Boss. It's challenging enough to get them in Follow Up Boss and doing what they're supposed to there. So getting them to go into other platforms is a bridge too far. We want to keep them in Follow Up Boss. We recently partnered with Kyle Whistle, the top selling team in San Diego, to build out our analytics platform. So quick product roadmap. So we are going to be, the main thing we're going to be focusing on after the SkySlope integration is our analytics platform. We already have a few pieces launched, but we have a lot more planned. We want to be able to get goals and conversion ratios up and running. But it is in beta right now, and anybody who gets our forms gets access to what we've rolled out so far. So you'll have all the agents on here. You'll be able to see from one stage to the next, what the conversion ratio is, what the average number of days between stages, and what's going to make our analytics unique is all the data on here you'll be able to click through. So if you see, 127 assigned appointments, you'll be able to click on that and it'll pull up those actual appointments in our opportunity table so you can make sure the data is correct and make any updates, and those updates will sync back into Follow Up Boss. All right, so what we've built other than the forms is our automation platform. So we have an automation builder similar to Zapier, but built specifically for Follow Up Boss. So we have a lot of automation triggers that don't exist in Follow Up Boss or Zapier. We can do a lot of unique things. We can make dynamic smart lists. We can automate agent accountability. So if your agents aren't following up appropriately, we can move the lead into a pond automatically for other agents to have access to. So this is up and running and it's pretty awesome. All right, so if you're ready to learn how we plan on integrating SkySlope with Follow Up Boss, go ahead and type yes into the chat. Awesome. All right. So don't repeat yourself. DRY is a software development principle. It means don't repeat yourself. So that's one of our goals is to avoid duplicate data entry across the organization. So once somebody enters data into any platform, we want that data to populate into the other platform so nobody else on the team has to re-enter that data. So for SkySlope, we're going to be sending data in when a buyer goes pending, when a listing is signed, and when the listing goes pending. We're going to be adding contacts. So currently we have it set up where when you put a contact into a form, it'll sync over to SkySlope. What we're working on now, which will be ready in our next rollout, will be being able to save contacts. So you'll be able to select a transaction coordinator from the dropdown, and then all their data that's saved in our system will sync over. But we do have contacts up and running now when you add the data in, and we also pull the contacts from Follow Boss. It'll keep your agents in Follow Boss, and then we also are going to roll out syncing updates that are made in SkySlope back to Follow Boss. So that also is going to come out on our second iteration of the integration. Your TCs can work out of SkySlope, and when TCs make updates in SkySlope, it'll sync back into the deal or person in Follow Boss. So who's excited to see a demo? Go ahead and type yes into the chat. So like I mentioned before, we have a few different pieces. We have automation, forms, and analytics. First, I'm going to go. So this is the form we're going to be demoing today. Here's our listing form. So you can put whatever fields you want, and you can also map whatever fields over to SkySlope. So we have like the checklist for SkySlope. You're going to collect your address, info, listing amount, commission percent, if there's any referral fees. You could put all your dates on here, agreement sign date, agreement expiration date, if there's going to be an open house. You could do, staging, your marketing info, if the property has solar, water, sewer, like you can collect all the info that anybody on the team will need to be able to do their job all at once from within Follow Boss. So secondary contact info, home warranty, person, your documents, and if you want to add additional fields, you just drag it over. And Mihir, can you send me a PDF in Slack that I'll be able to load on here?
Yeah.
Just find a one-page PDF couple of one-page PDFs that I could load. All right. And so now if I go to settings, we have general settings, form settings. So form settings is where you can turn on the SkySlope. So create SkySlope listing, turn it on, sync documents to SkySlope, and this will automatically create a workflow. So in our automation platform, we have this workflow, and this is where, it looks similar to Zapier. Create a listing, add seller contact, add a listing commission, upload documents. So this gets created automatically, and it has a lot of the fields pre-mapped, but you can add additional stuff to it by pulling up configure, and then you can map additional fields. So if I want to add custom fields, I can add that here, but I'm not going to make any updates now, but we'll go over into Follow-Up Boss and show how it works in there. Okay, so now we're in Follow-Up Boss. We have a lead record here, and we have our embedded app. So any of the forms that are built in our builder are going to show up in Follow-Up Boss on the embedded app. So our opportunity forms are what are synced to SkySlope. So I'm going to go to the pipeline. So if I go to my seller pipeline, now I get my seller form. So I'm going to go to the listing form. and fill this out. So checklist type, I'm gonna do a resale. I'm just gonna fill out the required fields because that's what we have synced over to SkySlope. So is there a secondary contact? If this is yes, now we'll get our secondary contact fields. This will add the secondary contact in the SkySlope. It'll also add it to the relationship. All right. All right. And submit. All right, so in Follow Boss, we get a note with everything. Our documents are here. We'll get a deal added in a second. And we can automate anything that needs to happen when a form is submitted. We can update the stage of the contact. We can trigger action plans. We can pause action plans. We could add collaborators. We can populate any of the data from the form to custom fields on the lead record or the deal record. Just log in to SkySlope, and here we are. So it created the listing. One of the things we're working on in the form system is the ability to use Google address lookups to pull the address so your agents don't have to type in all that data. And so what we do is we automatically split this. So if you noticed, I put in the address field over here, 888 Main Street, it automatically split it into street number and street name. Put the city in there, resale, this is the type, list price, listing date, expiration date, put the listing commission. We can map this, so we didn't set that up in the automation, but it is mappable from the lead record. Let's see what else that we got. Agent got pulled over, seller, so Peter Parker got pulled over. Agent didn't even need to put this person in. It was just pulled over from the lead record. The secondary contact was pulled over. We got the contact here. We got the secondary contact. Home warranty looks like it's running a little slow. Yeah, so home warranty hasn't been pulled over yet. Let me refresh, see if it's. This should populate in a second. All right, and then documents. We got our documents here. We got the checklist created. We don't really have anything built out in the checklist, but the checklist got added. And then the next step, I'm not gonna check the contacts again. There we go. Here's our home warranty. All right, home warranty person. All right, and so then going back into follow-up boss, now to add the pending data, you would just go to the pending form. I'm not going to go through this because it's got a lot of fields and a lot of required stuff. One thing that we can't do is we can't actually make the transition from listing to pending. We could put the date, we could update the data, and then once the TC moves it from listing to pending, it will have the data in there, but SkySlope just doesn't have the ability to switch it from listing to pending from the form. So when the form's submitted, we put all the data in there into the transaction, we notify the TC, and then when the TC converts it over to pending, that's when all the data will be there that was submitted on the pending form. You could also, for buyer pending, you could add the buyer pending data in. So yeah, that's pretty much it for how the SkySlope integration works. Let me go back. While I'm here, let me see if there's any questions. Now we have our deal here and we have this tile. So this tile is now associated with the SkySlope transaction and is associated with this deal. And so if I go to new opportunity, it'll create a new deal, new SkySlope transaction. But if I click on the tile, it'll move this to the next stage. So if I go to pending, our pending form, each of our forms are associated with a specific pipeline and stage and follow bus. And so it'll move it through the pipeline. So if I go to the closed form, it'll move it to closed. So that's how the system works. Let me hear, can you read off any other chats?
Yep. Right. So the next one is, where are the forms to be placed?
Can you elaborate on that?
All right. While Darren types that out, the next question is, Daniel, you added a second contact in interface, but I see that the FOB screen still shows only the primary contact and the relationship field is blank. Do we need to add the second contact again?
No, so we do have a setting in interface to add a relationship for the secondary client. So I must not have that on, either that or it's running slow. But we do have
No,
it so
it's
uh,
not on. It's not on by default.
it's okay. So yeah, if I had that setting turned on, it would have added the secondary contact to the relationship. And
All right.
what we're also working, we don't have this set up yet, but we're also making it so if a secondary relationship is already on the lead record, it'll pull the secondary over to SkySlope. So right now you could put it in the form and it'll add it to the relationship and add it to SkySlope, but we're also going to have it set up to where if the relationship already exists, it'll pull over and we'll probably make it where there'll be an option on the form to, pull relationship over because there may be circumstances where you don't want that relationship pulled over. Here, next question.
Who would fill out the form, the TC or the agent?
So we recommend having the agent do it. So this essentially is like the notification to the TC. We do have teams that have their TCs do it. The reason we recommend having the agent do it is because typically the agent needs to provide the TC info that the agent has and the TC doesn't have, and the form is the best way of making that happen. But we do have teams that have the TCs fill out our form, so it could work either way. But our recommendation is to have the agents fill out all the info that they have that needs to be transferred over to the TC, and then we'll create the SkySlope integration or the SkySlope transaction. We'll send the info to the TC, and then the TC could append any additional info into SkySlope that needs to be appended.
All right. The next question is, can you add multiple agents to a SkySlope file with the integration?
Yeah, so anything that's put on the form can be pushed over. So if there's like a secondary agent, then you would just put secondary agent on the form. You'd have to put whatever detail. Right now, the way it's set up is you'd have to put whatever details. So if you wanted like the email and the phone number to go over, that would need to be put into the form. But we are working on like storing data in our system. So eventually you'll be able to have like a drop down of your agents for secondary agent or TC, and all the data will already be stored in our system, and then it'll just go over. But right now, we can push any contact over that's written into the form, but we are working on improving that.
All right. The next question is, who has access to the client's data and will it be sold?
Who has access to the client's data? We definitely are very careful with our data. We have no intentions of providing that data to anyone else. It's your data. It'll always be your data. As long as I'm running the company, we're going to keep your data as safe as humanly possible.
All right. Any other questions? You can type in the chat or the Q&A.
All right, if that's all the questions, I'm going to go back to slides. All right, so it is in beta. Usually we're in beta for about a month. We're mid-November, so we'll probably be in beta through December. Anybody who signs up will be an early adopter, so we are going to give a pretty significant discount. And the benefit is you'll have a lot of influence on how we build out the integration from here. It's definitely still a work in progress. We have a good chunk of it up and running, but we still want to sync info back from SkySlope. We still want to have saved contacts. And so you'll have a lot of influence on how we develop the integration from here. So for a yearly subscription, normally our form setup is $99 per form. So essentially our basic plan comes with 4 forms. For the SkySlope integration, you would want a buyer pending form, a seller pending form, a seller listing form, and then you'd have a fourth form that you could use for, anything you want. So a lot of teams use it for an open house form because we can have forms that generate leads in Follow Up Boss. It also can be a form that gets sent out to a client like a survey. So you can send out forms to your clients for them to fill out, and then the data will come back in a Follow Up Boss. But you get 4 forms. 396 is the normal setup. The setup for the SkySlope integration is going to be $99. Basic with the SkySlope integration is going to be $129 a month. So the total is $1548 for a year. For anybody who signs up by the end of November, we're discounting that over 50% to $999 for the year. If you want to sign up now, you just scan the QR code that's going to take you to a sales page. If you're an existing client of ours, you probably just want to schedule a call with us, especially if you already have our forms. This pricing won't be relevant to you. We will have discounts for existing clients. So just you can scan that QR code, and on the sales page, it'll give you the option of scheduling a call. Any existing clients, go ahead and schedule a call. Anybody who's not an existing client, you can scan the QR code. We do also have a monthly option with the setup of the forms, setup of the SkySlope integration, and 1 month. Normally that would be 624 to get started. So we're discounting it to 349, which is a little bit less than 50% off. So go ahead and scan the QR code. This pricing will be available until the end of the month. So essentially the 28th, I believe, is next Friday. So go ahead and scan the QR code. If you need to schedule a call, just make sure it's done by the 28th. I will be for anybody in Canada. I don't know if people in Canada use SkySlope, but if there's anybody in Canada, I will be doing calls that Friday after Thanksgiving, so you can schedule a call for then. Are there any other questions that came up?
We have a question from Robert, who is an existing client, and he's asking how existing clients can get access.
Yeah, so just to schedule a call and we can get you up and running. There, we are going to have a pretty good discount for clients. So if you already have our forms, that'll be discounted by at least 50%, and we can add that on to your existing plan.
All right. Does this work for Canada currently?
Yeah, I mean, if you use SkySlope, it definitely works in Canada. I know Canada has some um, unique, what's the word I'm looking for, transaction management. It's just different up there. So I wasn't sure if teams use SkySlope up in Canada, but if you use SkySlope in Canada, yeah, there's no reason it wouldn't work. Any other questions? Did we get a follow-up to that question that I was unsure about?
No, not yet.
All right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I will hang out here for a few more minutes in case anybody else has any questions. But that's if anybody wants to see anything else in Follow Boss, I'm happy to go back over there and show anything that you were unsure about. Same thing in SkySlope. We're pretty much right on schedule. It's been about 35 minutes, so we're wrapping this up, but I am going to hang out in case anybody has additional questions. Let me see if I get my chat pulled up.
Yes. We do have one more question in the chat.
Perfect.
So, hi Daniel, I may have missed it in the beginning, but what is the advantage of creating the form in Follow Boss rather than directly into SkySlope?
It keeps your agents in Follow Boss. So that's probably the main reason people use us. It's challenging enough to get your agents into Follow Boss. Having them go into other platforms just makes things even more challenging. And so one of the main goals of interface is to keep your agents in Follow Boss and your TC in SkySlope or whatever platform they're using so that each user just has to deal with one platform. So this allows your agents to stay in Follow Boss, enter the data there, and have it go over to SkySlope and not have to remember another login. Sometimes agents just can't get into those other platforms. They didn't save their password, so they're not able to log in. And now the transaction management process is being held up because the data is not getting into SkySlope because the agents isn't logging in over there. This just allows your agents to deal with one platform. We want to be able to send data into every platform your team is using so the agent can stay in the follow boss. So SkySlope is what we built. So far, we also have integrations with Open to Close and Sisu. The next one I believe we're going to be working on is dot loop. Dot loop's going to be interesting because we're going to be able to pull data. We're going to have a search functionality on the form that'll be able to look up loops in dot loop and pull the data from there onto the form in Follow Boss. And then you fill out the rest of the form and submit, and it'll update everything in Follow Boss. But that'll probably be either Q1 or maybe Q2 of next year.
Right, and a follow-up question to that. So if the agents aren't currently using SkySlope and the TC is, should we wait for future features?
So one of the main benefits of our system, even without the SkySlope integration, is a way to communicate for the agent to communicate the data to the TC. So the way a lot of teams do it is it's like a back and forth nightmare between the TC and the agent. So the agent wants to get on with, sell it, getting their next listing or getting their next pending deal. And so they send an email to the TC that has like the absolute bare minimum of info. that doesn't allow the TC to do what they need to do. And then the TC sends an email back to the agent asking for additional info. And then the agent provides some of that info and it just becomes a back and forth nightmare. Using the forms, the agent can collect all the info from the agent at once, and then that data gets sent to the transaction coordinator. So that's the best way of communicating the info to the transaction coordinator. And then with the SkySlope integration now, it'll put the data in there and the TC won't have to enter all that info. Does that answer the question?
So she says, yes, thank you. Is there somewhere we can see a sample of the form on your website, or will we be getting a copy of this recording?
Yeah, we'll be sending a copy of the recording, but also the form is fully customizable. So the form that I filled out is, what we use for demos, but you could add whatever data you want onto the form. So it could be exactly how you want it set up. So if there's certain info you want to collect for your listings that you didn't see on the form, or if our form was too in-depth and too long and you want something simple, either way, we can make it happen. So it's a fully customizable form to collect whatever data that makes sense for your team. And the recording will go out probably Monday, maybe by Friday, but more likely by Monday of next week. Any other questions, Mir?
Nope.
All right. Did you check the Q&A again?
Yep, I have it open.
All
No
right.
open question.
All right. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. The discounts will be available till the end of the month. So go ahead and schedule any demos or sign up on the sales page and we'll get you dialed in. Appreciate everyone's time. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing and wrap things up. So thanks everyone. Appreciate your time.